if you have to get a basic understanding of Tantra, one of the books I was the Principles of Tantra Shastra, Shakta and Shakti and etc., written by Arthur Avalon. Arthur Avalon was...
Mount Kailas. The scene of the revelation of Mahanirvana Tantra is laid in Himalaya, the abode of snow, a holy land weighted with the traditions of the Aryan race. Here in these lofty uplands, encircled with everlasting snows, rose the great mountain of the north, the Sapta Kula Parvata. Hence the race itself came, and there its early legends have their setting. There are still shown at Bhimudiya the caves where the sons of Pandu and Draupadi rested, as did Rama and his faithful wife at the point where the Kosi joins the Sita in the grove of Asoka trees. In these mountains Munis and Rishis lived. Here also is the Kshetra of Shiva Mahadev, where his spouse Parvati, the daughter of the mountain king, was born, and where Mother Ganges also has her source. From time immemorial pilgrims have toiled through these mountains to visit the three great shrines at Gangotri, Kedarnath and Badrinath. At Kangri, further north, the pilgrims make the parikrama of Mount Kailas, Kan Rinpoche, where Shiva is said to dwell. This nobly towering peak rises to the northwest of the sacred Mansarovar Lake, Mafam Yamtso, from amidst the purple ranges of the lower Kangri mountains. The paradise of Shiva is a summerland of both lasting sunshine and cool shade, musical with the song of birds and bright with undying flowers. The air, scented with the sweet fragrance of Mandara chaplets, resounds with the music and song of celestial singers and players. The mount is Gana Parvata, thronged with trains of spirits, Devyoni, of which the opening chapter of Mahanirvana, Tantra speaks, and in the regions beyond rises Mount Meru, center of the world lotus. Its heights, peopled with spirits, are hung with clusters of stars, as with wreaths of Malti flowers. In short, it is written, he who thinks of Himachala, though he should not behold him, is greater than he who performs all worship in Kashi, Benaras. In 100 ages of the Devas, I could not tell thee of the glories of Himachala. As the dew is dried up by the morning sun, so the sins of mankind by the sight of Himachala. It is not, however, necessary to go to the Himalayan Kailas to find Shiva. He dwells wheresoever his worshippers, versed in Kulatattva, abide, and his mystic mount is to be sought in the thousand-petaled lotus Sahasrapadma, in the body of every human jiva, hence called Shivasthana, to which all, wheresoever situate, may repair when they have learned how to achieve the way either. Shiva promulgates his teaching in the world below in the works known as Yamla, Damra, Shiva Sutra, and in the Tantras which exist in the form of dialogues between the Devta and his Shakti, the Devi in her form as Parvati. According to the Gayatri Tantra, the Deva Ganesha first preached the Tantra to the Devayoni on Mount Kailas, after he had himself received them from the mouth of Shiva. After a description of the mountain, the dialogue opens with a question from Parvati, in answer to which, and those which succeed it, Shiva unfolds his doctrine on the subjects with which Mahanirvana Tantra deals. Shiva and Shakti, that eternal immutable existence which transcends the Turiya and all other states in the unconditioned absolute, the supreme Brahman or Para-Brahman without Prakriti, Niskala, or her attributes Nirgune, which, as being the inner self and knowing subject, can never be the object of cognition, and is to be apprehended only through yoga by the realization of the self Atma Janana, which it is. For, as it is said, spirit can alone know spirit. Being beyond mind, speech, and without name, the Brahman was called Tat, that, and then Tat Sat, that which is. For the sun, moon, and stars, and all visible things, what are they but a glimpse of light caught from that Tat? Brahman is both Niskala and Sakla. Kala is Prakriti. The Nishkala Brahman or Para Brahman is the Tat when thought of as without Prakriti, Prakritiranya. It is called Sakla when with Prakriti. As the substance of Prakriti is the three gunas, it is then Saguna. As in the previous state, it was Nirgun. Though in the latter state it is thought of as without Shakti, yet, making accommodation to human speech, in it potentially exists Shakti, its power and the whole universe produced by it. To say, however, that the Shakti exists in the Brahman is but a form of speech, since it and Shakti are, in fact, one, and Shakti is eternal Anadirupa. She is Brahmarupa and both Viguna, Nirguna, and Saguna, the Kaitanya Rupini Devi, who manifests all Bhuta. She is the Ananda Rupini Devi, by whom the Brahman manifests itself, and who, to use the words of the Sarada, pervades the universe as does oil the sesamum seed. In the beginning, the Niskala Brahman alone existed. In the beginning there was the One. It willed and became many. Aham Rahasyam, may I be many. In such manifestation of Shakti, the Brahman is known as the lower, Apra, or manifested Brahman, who, as the subject of worship, is meditated upon with attributes. And, in fact, to the mind and sense of the embodied spirit, Jiva, the Brahman has body and form. It is embodied in the forms of all Devas and Devis, and in the worshipper himself. Its form is that of the universe, and of all things and beings therein. As Shruti says, he saw, Saiksta aham bahu, Syam prajaya. He thought to himself, may I be many. Saiksata was itself a manifestation of Shakti. The Parampurva Nirvan, a Shakti of Brahman as Shakti. From the Brahman, with Shakti, Parhakti Maya, issued Nada, Shiva Shakti as the word or sound, and from Nada, Bindu appeared. Kalich Rana, in his commentary on the Sachkranirupna, says that Shiva and Nirvana, Shakti bound by a Mayic bond and covering, should be thought of as existing in the form of Param Bindu. The Sharda says, Sakkidanan da vibhavat saklat parmeshwarat esit Shakti stato nado, nadad Bindu samudbhava. From Parmeshwar, vested with the wealth of Sakkidananda and with Prakriti, Sakla, issued Shakti. From Shakti came Nada, and from Nada was born Bindu. The state of subtle body, which is known as Kamakala, is the Mula of Mantra. The term Mula Mantratmika, when applied to the Devi, refers to this subtle body of hers known as the Kamakala. The Tantra also speaks of three Bindus, namely Shiva Maya, Shakti Maya, and Shiva Shakti Maya. The Param Bindu is represented as a circle, the center of which is the Brahmapada, or place of Brahman, wherein are Prakriti Purusha, the circumference of which is encircling Maya. It is on the crescent of Nirvana Kala, the 17th, which is again in that of Amakala, the 16th digit, referred to in the text of the moon circle. Candramandala, which circle is situate above the sun circle, Surya Mandala, the Guru and the Hasa, which are in the pericarp of the 1,000-petaled lotus, Sahrarabdrana. Next to the Bindu is the fiery Bodhini or Nibodhika. The Bindu, with the Nirvana Kala, Nibodhika, and Amakala, are situated in the lightning-like inverted triangle known as A, Ka, Tha, and which is so called because at its apex is A, at its right base is Ka, and at its left base Tha. It is made up of 48 letters, Matrika, the 16 vowels running from A to Ka, 16 consonants of the Ka Varga and other groups running from Ka to Tha, and the remaining 16 from Tha to A. Inside are the remaining letters, Matrika, Ha, La, second, and Ksha. As the substance of Devi is Matrika, Matrakami. The triangle represents the word of all that exists. The triangle is itself encircled by the Chandramandala. The Bindu is symbolically described as being like a grain of gram, kanka, which under its encircling sheath contains a divided seed. This Parambindu is Prakriti, Purusha, Shivashakti. It is known as the Shabda Brahman, the sound Brahman, or Apra Brahman. A polarization of the two Shiva and Shakti Tattvas then takes place in Parashakti Maya. The Devi becomes Unmukhi. Her face turns towards Shiva. There is an unfolding which bursts the encircling shell of Maya and creation. Then takes place by division of Shiva and Shakti, or of Ham and Sa. The Sharda says, the Devta. Parashakti Maya is again itself divided. Such divisions being known as Bindu, Bija, and Nada. Bindu is of the nature of Nada of Shiva and Bija of Shakti, and Nada has been said to be the relation of these to by those who are versed in all the agamas. The Sharda says that before the bursting of the shell enclosing the Brahmapada, which, together with its defining circumference, constitutes the Sabda Brahman, an indistinct sound arose, Avyaktatmaravo Bhavat. This Avyaktanada is both the first and the last state of Nada, according as it is viewed from the standpoint of evolution or involution. For Nada, as Raghava Bhatta says, exists in three states. In Nada are the gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, which form the substance of Prakriti, which with Shiva it is. When Tamoguna predominates, Nada is merely an indistinct or unmanifested Dhvanyatmako Vyaktanda, sound in the nature of Dhvani. In this state, in which it is a phase of Avyaktanada, it is called Nibodhika or Bodhini. It is Nada when Rajoguna is in the ascendant, when there is a sound in which there is something like a connected or combined disposition of the letters. When the Sattva-guna preponderates, Nada assumes the form of Bindu. The action of Rajas on Tamas is to wail. Its own independent action effects an arrangement which is only perfected by the emergence of the essentially manifesting Sattvika guna set into play by it. Nada, Bindu, and Nibodhika, and the Shakti, of which they are the specific manifestations, are said to be in the form of sun, moon, and fire respectively. Janana, spiritual wisdom, is spoken of as fire as it burns up all actions, and the Tamogun is associated with it. For when the effect of cause and effect of action are really known, then action ceases. Ichha is the moon. The moon contains the 16th digit, the Amakala, with its nectar, which neither increases nor decays, and Ichha or will is the eternal precursor of creation. Kriya is like sun, for as the sun by its light makes all things visible, so unless there is action and striving there cannot be realization or manifestation. As the Gita says, as one sun makes manifest all the lokas. The Shabda Brahman manifests itself in a triad of energies: knowledge, Jnana Shakti, will, Ichha Shakti, and action, Kriya Shakti, associated with the three gun as of Prakriti, Tamas, Sattva, and Rajas. From the Param, Bindu, who is both Bindavatmaka and Kalatma, I. Shakti, issued Rodri, Rudra and his Shakti, whose forms are fire, Vahani, and whose activity is knowledge, Janana, Vama, and Vishnu and his Shakti, whose form is the sun and whose activity is Kriya, action, and Jayastha, and Brahma and his Shakti, whose form is the moon and whose activity is desire. The Vmakeswara Tantra says that Tripura is threefold, as Brahma, Vishnu, and Sa, and as the energies desire, wisdom, and action. The energy of will when Brahman would create, the energy of wisdom when she reminds him, saying, let this be thus. And when, thus knowing, he acts, she becomes the energy of action. The Dev is thus Ichha Shakti Jana Na Shakti Kriya Shakti Swarupini. Parashiva exists as a septenary under the form, firstly, of Shambhu, who is the associate of time, Kala Bandhu. From him issues Sadashiva, who pervades and manifests all things, and then come Isna and the triad, Rudra, Vishnu and Brahma, each with his respective Shakti, without whom they avail nothing, separately and particularly associated with the gunas, tamas, sattva and rajas. Of these devas, the last triad, together with Isna and Sadashiva, are the 5 Shivas who are collectively known as the Mahaprita, whose bija is Hese. Of the Mahaprita, it is said that the last 4 form the support and the 5th the seat of the bed on which the Dev is united with Paramashiva in the room of Chintamani stone, on the jeweled island clad with clumps of Kadamba and heavenly trees set in the ocean of ambrosia. Shiva is variously addressed in this work as Shambhu, Sadashiva, Samkara, Maheshwar, etc., names which indicate particular states, qualities and manifestation of the one in its descent towards the many, for there are many Rudras. Thus Sadashiva indicates the predominance of the Sattva guna. His names are many, 1008 being given in the 69th chapter of the Shiva Purana and in the 17th chapter of the Anusana Parvan of the Mahabharat. Shakti is both Maya, that by which the Brahman creating the universe is able to make itself appear to be different from what it really is, and Mula Prakriti, or the unmanifested, avyakta, state of that which, when manifest, is the universe of name and form. It is the primary so-called material coys consisting of the equipoise of the triad of guna or qualities which are sattva, that which manifests, rajas, that which acts, tamas, that which veils and produces inertia. The 3 gunas represent nature as the revelation of spirit, nature as the passage of descent from spirit to matter, or of ascent from matter to spirit, and nature as the dense veil of spirit. The Dev is thus Gunanidhi, treasure house of guna. Mula Prakriti is the womb into which Brahman casts the seed from which all things are born. The womb thrills to the movement of the essentially active Rajoguna. The equilibrium of the triad is destroyed and the guna, now in varied combinations, evolves under the illumination of Shiva, the universe which is ruled by Maheshwar and Maheshwari. The dual principles of Shiva and Shakti, which are in such dual form the product of the polarity manifested in Parashakti Maya, pervade the whole universe and are present in man in the Swayam Bhulinga of the Muladhara and the Dev Kundalin who, in serpent form, encircles it. The Shabda Brahman assumes in the body of man the form of the Dev Kundalin, and as such is in all pran is breathing creatures, and in the shape of letters appears in prose and verse. Kundala means coiled. Hence Kundalini, whose form is that of a coiled serpent, means that which is coiled. She is the luminous vital energy, Jiva Shakti, which manifests as Pran A. She sleeps in the Muladhara and has 3.5 coils corresponding in number with the 3.5 bindus of which the Kubjika Tantra speaks. When after closing the ears the sound of her hissing is not heard, death approaches. From the first Avyakta creation issued the second. Mehit, with its 3 gunas distinctly manifested. Thence sprung the third creation Ahamakara, selfhood, which is of threefold form Vakarika or pure Satvika Ahamkara, the Tajsa or Jasika Ahamkara, and the Tamsika or Bhutadika Ahamkara. The latter is the origin of the subtle essences, Tanmatra, of the Tattvas, ether, air, fire, water, earth, associated with sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell, and with the colors, pure transparency, shyama, red, white, and yellow. There is some difference in the schools as to that which each of the 3 forms produces, but from such threefold form of Ahamkara issue the Indriyas, senses, and the Devas Dikwata, Arka, Prasitas, Vahani, Indra, Upendra, Mitra, and the Ashwins. The Vakarika, Tajsa, and Bhutadika are the fourth, fifth, and sixth creations, which are known as Prakrita, or appertaining to Prakriti. The rest, which are products of these, such as the vegetable world with its upward life current, animals with horizontal life current, and Bhuta, Prita, and the like, whose life current tends downward, constitute the Vakrat creation, the two being known as the Kaumara creation. The goddess, Dev, is the great Shakti. She is Maya, for of her the Maya, which produces the samsarais. As Lord of Maya, she is Mahamaya. Dev is Avidya, nescience, because she binds, and Vidya, knowledge, because she liberates and destroys the samsara. She is Prakriti, and as existing before creation is the Adya, primordial, Shakti. Devi is the Vaka Shakti, the manifestation of CIT in Prakriti, and the Vacha Shakti, or CIT itself. The Atma should be contemplated as Dev. Shakti or Dev is thus the Brahman revealed in its mother aspect, Srimata, as creatrix and nourisher of the worlds. Kal says of herself in Yogini Tantra, Sachidanand, Rupaham Brahmai Veham Sfurt Prabham. So the Dev is described with attributes both of the qualified Brahman, and since that Brahman is but the manifestation of the Absolute, she is also addressed with epithets, which denote the unconditioned Brahman. She is the great mother, Ambika, sprung from the sacrificial hearth of the fire of the grand consciousness, CIT, decked with the sun and moon, Lalita, she who plays, whose play is world play, whose eyes playing like fish in the beauteous waters of her divine face, open and shut with the appearance and disappearance of countless worlds now illuminated by her light, now wrapped in her terrible darkness. The Devi, as Para Brahman, is beyond all form and guna. The forms of the Mother of the Universe are threefold. There is first the Supreme, Para, form, of which, as the Vishnuyamla says, none knows. There is next her subtle, Sukshma, form, which consists of mantra. But as the mind cannot easily settle itself upon that which is formless, she appears as the subject of contemplation in her third, or gross, sthula, or physical form with hands and feet and the like as celebrated in the Devi Stotra of the Puranas and Tantras. Devi, who as Prakriti is the source of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahevara, has both male and female forms. But it is in her female forms that she is chiefly contemplated. For though existing in all things, in a peculiar sense female beings are parts of her. The Great Mother, who exists in the form of all Tantras and all Yantras, is, as the Lalita says, the unsullied treasure house of beauty, the sapphire Dev, whose slender waist, bending beneath the burden of the ripe fruit of her breasts, wells into jeweled hips heavy with the promise of infinite maternities. As the Mahadevi, she exists in all forms as Saraswat, Lakshmi, Gayatri, Durga, Tripura Sundari, Annapurna, and all the Devis who are avatars of the Brahman. Devi, as Sati, Uma, Parvati, and Gauri, is spouse of Shiva. It was as Sati prior to Daksha's sacrifice, Daksayagya, that the Dev manifested herself to Shiva in the 10 celebrated forms known as the Dasamahavidya, referred to in the text Kali, Bagla, Chinnamasta, Bhuvneshwar, Matangini, Shodhashi, Dhumavati, Traipur Sundari, Tara, and Bhairav. When, at the Daksa Yagya, she yielded up her life in shame and sorrow at the treatment accorded by her father to her husband, Shiva took away the body, and, ever bearing it with him, remained wholly distraught and spent with grief. To save the world from the forces of evil which arose and grew with the withdrawal of his divine control, Vishnu with his discus, Chakra, cut the dead body of Sati, which Shiva bore, into 51 fragments, which fell to earth at the places thereafter known as the 51 Mahapita Sthana, referred to in the text. where Devi, with her Bhairava, is worshipped under various names. Besides the forms of the Devi in the Brahmanda, there is her subtle form Kundalin in the body, Pindanda. These are but some only of her endless forms. She is seen as one and as many, as it were, but one moon reflected in countless waters. She exists, too, in all animals and inorganic things. The universe with all its beauties is, as the Devi Purana says, but a part of her. All this diversity of form is but the infinite manifestation of the flowering beauty of the one supreme life, a doctrine which is nowhere else taught with greater wealth of illustration than in the Tantra Shastras and Tantras. The great Bharga in the bright sun and all Devtas, and indeed all life and being are wonderful and are worshipful but only as her manifestations. And he who worships them otherwise is, in the words of the great Devi Bhagavata, like unto a man who, with the light of a clear lamp in his hands, yet falls into some waterless and terrible well. The highest worship for which the sadhaka is qualified, adhikari, only after external worship, and that internal form known as sadhara is described as niradhar. Therein pure intelligence is the supreme Shakti, who is worshipped as the very self, the witness freed of the glamour of the manifold universe. By one's own direct experience of Maheshwari as the self, she is with reverence made the object of that worship which leads to liberation.